Chapter 39. This Coming Storm. We all gotta go sometimes. I was just hoping for something more heroic. Souls. Souls are the spirit and essence of a pony, the fundamental core of their nature, and the kernel of life that exists beyond the biology of flesh and blood and mental synapses. I'd seen empirical evidence of the reality of souls. Beyond that, my beliefs in an afterlife where the souls of dead ponies continued on in eternal peace, and in a transcended souls of Celestia and Luna as goddesses, who watched over us with love and pity and hope. These surpassed the foundations of knowledge, and were the architecture of faith. But, the two things I did know: souls had a living power, and a soul was hard to kill. There was no way I could know for sure if the Black Book had been destroyed, but if it was not, then it was either buried under rubble, or fused into a crater of glass. The Black Book hadn't needed to be the conduit of some eldritch cosmic horror, or its pages filled with blasphemous magic to corrupt those close to it. It was enough that the book was the host to a wicked and twisted soul. The soul of an insane, maleficent zebra. The Black Book called out to those around it, who were susceptible to its influence. Two alicorns walked into the throne room. One sensed the presence of the Black Book. The other did not. Calamity not reacted to it when I had found it. My other friends had been near it as they travelled with me, but it had sunk its barbed hooks into my mind even before I had retrieved it. We'd encountered two alicorns who had been affected by the temptations of the Black Book without ever having seen it or even opened its pages. Nicaea had been transformed by the book's proximity. She'd been one of those who the goddess had sent to find the book. Did her telepathy leave her especially defenseless? Had the Black Book filled the void in her mind left by the absence of the goddess? I was vulnerable to it. My weaknesses, addiction, curiosity, and the shame of having only a single spell played into its strengths. The soul of the Black Book had been particularly ancient and powerful. I'd possessed the Black Book for less than 2 days, and it had already begun to tempt me. Clumsily perhaps at first. The book wasn't telepathic like the goddess. Most of the horrors in my nightmare I had provided myself. The book merely used the tools my fevered night terrors gave it, and still, I did not have the strength alone to withstand its first probing attacks. To be able to stand against that influence as it continuously tried to erode you away, to hold to any part of yourself after years with the book, much less to take its twisted gifts and create something noble and good from them. That would take a level of moral endurance and fortitude almost beyond comprehension. Be unwavering. How often had those 6 ponies from the past, through the radiance of their souls, given me insights I couldn't have had myself, or allowed me to tap reserves of strength and will I shouldn't have been able to muster. They had saved me and guided me since finding Applejack and Old Appaloosa, their influence growing with each statuette I found. But it was only after I'd brought them all together that they had been able to intervene on my behalf more directly. I believe it was no coincidence that Rarity was the first to appear. My mind and soul had ever so briefly become the battleground for 2 warring influences. One powerful soul of evil and madness against 6 shards that shone with the virtue and hope of Rarity and her 5 closest friends. The shards of the statuettes were not truly those of the ministry mares. I suppose they were more like Rarity's soul, wearing perfect disguises. But they shone with the true nature of those other ponies. They burned with the love and compassion and virtue and nobility of each of the ministry mares in turn. They were eternal. Metaphysical images of the deepest, truest nature of those ponies, lit up like beacons, fueled by a shining piece of Rarity herself. Rarity, whose magical talent had always been in the shadow of Twilight Sparkle, must have seemed like easy prey to the zebra soul within the book. It had been wrong. She was one of the bearers of the elements of harmony for a reason, and when the soul images of the ministry mares were brought together, they brought the inner fire that fuels the elements of harmony with them. They had proven more powerful, even as mere shards, than the whole soul residing in the book. Or, at least, powerful enough to give me the strength I needed to fend it off. If the Black Book could not stand against the gestalt of the ministry mare's souls when they were only shards, How could it have stood against the whole soul of Twilight Sparkle, combined in unity with three of the most magically powerful mares of her time? The Black Book was not telepathic, but it could sense souls around it, knowing instinctively whom it could manipulate, and whom it could not. That last temptation of the book had an air of desperation to it. The zebra's soul had no way of knowing I was about to destroy its soul jar. It had had a reaction to something else. The Black Book had sensed the goddess, and it had been afraid. What happens to a soul when it no longer has a body to hold on to? Does it truly ascend? Does it spread out, no longer contained? Like the hydrogen in a balloon that had been popped, until it's no longer truly a soul, indistinguishable from the environment. What are the souls trapped together in the horror that was the goddess? My goal had been to destroy the physical reality of the goddess and free the souls trapped inside, to allow Twilight Sparkle, Trixie, and the others the rest they deserved and had been denied. I had not expected the goddess to try to save her children, but I had not expected the impact of the 6 memory orbs either. By showing those memories to the goddess, I had awoken something in Trixie. The goddess had become lost, and I believe part of her was able to find herself in those memories. The Star Orb had been created for compassion. By showing that memory to the goddess, I'd acted like Rarity's mirror had for Pinkie Pie. Just like I'd hoped the memories of the Balloon Orb might stir whatever still remained of Twilight Sparkle. And what about my own soul? If I died here, would Celestia and Luna welcome me, or turn me away in horror and disgust? I knew what I had done, and my soul was blackened from it. I'd finally taken that step off the cliff. I'd sacrificed my own morality and goodness to save the Equestrian wasteland. I was Red-Eye now, through and through, and there would be a price for that. 38 minutes would have been plenty of time, but that time was never meant for me. It was time enough for Zenith and Calamity to escape. I'd been willing to forfeit my own life. 38 minutes would have been enough for the Alicorns of the goddess to have scoured Maripony, found the bomb, and disarmed whatever time a Red-Eye constructed for it. But the Balefire bomb had never been in Maripony. 38 minutes was not long enough for the Alicorns to have fought their way through the maze of Hellhound Warrens and found the bomb hidden dozens of yards beneath Maripony's foundations. The Balefire bomb had gone off in a subterranean detonation directly below us. I awoke in pitch darkness. I felt sick, even worse than in the days past. My body was hot, my mouth was dry, my stomach was twisted painfully, but there was nothing in it to heave. My body was covered in sweat. There was a crushing weight on my lower body that brought back memories of a nightmare. Being trapped under a wall, crying out while I watched Calamity and Velvet Remedy walk away. There was a hiss from the darkness below. The floor beneath me slanted away. I would have slid down into the hissing blackness, but I was pinned. My pit buck was clicking slowly. For a few terrifying minutes, I had no idea where I was. Then, I remembered the bomb. Remembered running for the safe room, bucking the emergency button. I didn't recall a whole lot after that. My memories were a jumble, but I did remember feeling the almighty thwoomp from somewhere underneath us. The feeling of the whole room being thrust upwards as the bomb annihilated everything above it. A brief moment of weightlessness, and then the rush of falling. Click. Click. I turned on my eyes forward sparkle, wondering when I turned it off. A dozen warnings flashed across it. The safe room had survived 2 mega spells, one almost point blank. But there was a microfracture somewhere in its protective walls, and radiation was leaking in. Considering how hot it must be outside, the fact I was still alive, and the room wasn't an unbearable oven, spoke amazing praise of Twilight Sparkle and her ministry. But I was swiftly reaching levels of fatal exposure. I floated a rat away from my saddlebags, bracing against the horrible taste. According to my inventory sorter, the other medical supplies I had packed, several healing potions, and a vial of Zenith's bleeding stopping goop, were all gone. I'd been unconscious before, but I had no recollection of it. The magic of the safe room must have prevented me from being turned to paste by the concussive force of the blast alone. Even still, with the fall I must have taken, I was lucky I didn't break my neck, or anything else. According to my EFS, I was remarkably unbattered, for a mare who was dying. Wait, hadn't there been some pony else in here with me? Peering into the darkness, I tried to remember. My EFS compass was telling me I was alone. I lifted my pit leg and turned on the light. Oh, merciful goddesses. My pitbuck light shone down a room, tilted at an insane angle. The terminal bank had torn from the wall. The concrete of the ceiling had collapsed in, revealing the shiny purple-tinted metal above it. A large slab of the concrete lay across me, pinning me in place. Below, the lower third of the room was filled with discoloured water, rubble, and the mangled filing cabinet. A small spray was coming from a section in the wall which had torn open. Something floated in the dark pool beneath me. It was a more spacious coffin than a healing booth, but I'd been foolish to think the room would save me. I was trapped, locked inside, and even if I could escape, outside was instant death.
I'm out of food, and the safe room's water talisman seems to have been corrupted,
Twilight had said.
At least I'm fairly confident that pure water isn't supposed to be that colour.
The water talisman was tainted. The body of what had once been Ambrosia was beneath the water. Mostly. Her body had bulged and metastasized under the taint, straining against the armour. A blob of malformed flesh had pushed out through the open visor like a tongue. A fleshy, grotesquely misshaped worm floated on the surface of the water. I screamed as I realised it was one of my own hind legs. After several long minutes of terror, I realised I could feel both of my hind legs. Barely able to breathe, I shifted my light, trying to look under the slab that was crushing me. Both of my hind legs were there, intact and healthy. Except, one was the pink of exposed skin, with only light fuzz of a coat. I had lost one of my legs in the fall, and I'd regrown it. I didn't think it was possible to feel even sicker, but I did. A deep, soul-aching horror filled me as I realised that I wasn't a pony anymore. I was something else. I wanted to cry, to scream. Was I a ghoul, transformed by the bomb? Or was this from exposure to the taint? How far removed was I now from being one of the goddess's children? At least the radiation would kill me before the room filled enough for me to drown. Unless I was enough of a pseudo-alicorn that the radiation wouldn't kill me. I prayed that it was. Please, please, Celestia, I beg you, have mercy on me. I turned off my light. It was better not seeing. Something wrenched the safe room. The concrete slab scraped against me as it shifted, drawing blood. The wounds were already closing as I tried to brace myself, worried the slab might slide off. Then, I felt the whole room lift, soaring into the air. The tainted water washed over me as the room righted itself. The misshaped flesh blob that had once been my leg washed up against me. I screamed in horror at the slimy touch of my desecrated form of flesh. A violent grinding filled the air, and the metal shutters over the windows pulled away, revealing a purple-tinted sky of clouds filled with blowing ash. The armoured glass had shattered, the razor-sharp shards hovering and then whisking away. My pitbuck began clicking rapidly. Somewhere above, I spotted the dark silhouette of a wagon and a glowing light of green and gold. For a moment, I thought it was Pyrelight. But then, I realised the glow was coming from a Pegasus. Had my friends come to rescue me? How? And at what cost? Oh, Calamity, I thought, wiping away tears. What have you done? But something was wrong. A purple glow enveloped me, a second floating the slab off my leg. I levitated out through the obliterated window. The super alicorn, her coat of dark purple to the point of black, stared at me with glowing eyes as she casually tossed away the safe room, performing telekinesis that would have overstrained me with effortless ease. The cloud above seemed awfully close. I glanced downward. We were very, very high. Below, the second crater of Splendid Valley glowed in the aftermath. With a beat of her wings, she flew up to level us with the wagon above us, bringing me with her. I realised at once that the wagon was not the Sky Bandit, and the glowing Pegasus was not Calamity. Ditzy-do? The super irradiated ghoul grinned happily at me, a sickly golden green light emitting from her mouth and around her teeth. The creatures of radiation do not merely heal in its presence. If they absorb enough of it, they grow stronger, more powerful. Ditzy-do had come into Splendid Valley looking for me. She had saved me. She and... The super alicorn set me on the front bench of the absolutely everything delivery wagon, right behind Ditzy-do. Without the glow of her magic, the purple tint vanished from the sky, traded for a sickly green. My pitbugs clicking went insane. We were high enough above the crater for the radiation levels to be merely bad, but Ditzy-do was shedding enough radiation to make this a very short rescue. The glowing ghoul smiled and pointed back at the wagon. I turned around, looking in through a small window. Inside the wagon were crates of Radaway, the packets glowing an inviting orange. I quickly levitated several and began to drink, turning back to thank her. I stopped as my eyes caught the cutie mark of the super alicorn's flank. A large, pink star, surrounded by smaller white ones. The super alicorn was silent, impassive, her gaze seemed fixed on my saddlebags. I was struck by a flash of insight. The goddess sent her children away, but she was telepathic, maintaining contact with them. When her body was destroyed, and the souls of the countless ponies who had been consumed into her were set free, some of them, the strongest ones, found their ways into the bodies of her fleeing children. Possession. But those bodies already had souls of their own. It was unlikely this could last. Already, the cutie mark on the super alicorn was beginning to fade. I scrambled. If this was Twilight Sparkle in any way, it was something she needed to hear. I turned up the volume on my earbloom and levitated it towards her as I found the file. The voice of Pinkie Pie, tinny and distorted, crackled through the air.
Hi, Twilight. It's me. I mean, I have you with me now, so you'll kind of be with me anyway. But it's not the same. I want the real Twilight Sparkle. I want my friend back. Please, I'll do anything.
The super alicorn had hovered, seeming transfixed by the sound, until the message ended. Then, wordlessly, she began to turn and fly away. The cutie mark on her flank was already completely gone. Twilight, wait! I cried out after the disappearing alicorn. Star Sparkle is still alive! And Spike! But whatever part of Twilight Sparkle my words might have once been able to reach were gone now. Evaporated. Or, if my heart could hope, just asleep. I wanted to cry, but my body couldn't produce tears. I drank another one of those horrid Radaways, as Ditzy-do began flying us out of Splendid Valley. Ditzy-do brought the wagon low as we reached the edge of the valley. We began flying along the border, moving more slowly. We were searching for something. I wanted to ask what, but Ditzy-do couldn't speak. What did you do? What did you just do? The voice of Ambrosia flooded through my mind. I fought to remember. I told her about the bomb. I was sure about that. But I couldn't recall exactly what I had said. But an antsy mare with a magical energy battle saddle didn't seem exactly engender a desire to lie. Her response had been to call out to Harbinger through the broadcaster built into her helmet. This room is designed to stop mega spells, I recall telling her. Your radio isn't going to penetrate. She had looked at me with panic.
I have to tell Harbinger. She has to get out of here. We have to pull back.
Her words had sparked a burst of fear in my breast. How many ponies do you have outside? The ground passed slowly beneath us. I couldn't remember any more. I caught them when my eyes would sparkle, friendly lights appearing on my EFS compass, before I actually spotted my friends. As we approached a clearing not far from the devastated Red Eye camp, Steelhooves appeared, pulling camouflage netting off the Sky Bandit. Velvet Remedy, Zenith, and Calamity emerged from within. They looked worn, weary, and bedraggled. Calamity immediately took to the air, while Velvet and Zenith scanned the skies. Pyrelight was missing from the group. Where was Pyrelight? Did you find anything this time? My Pegasus friend shouted. I tried to jump up, but my body just didn't have the energy. So instead, I waved. He couldn't see me. Ditzy-Do was just too bright. Ditzy-Do flew us in closer, pulling up and hovering at the edge of the clearing. I downed yet another Rataway as she waved Calamity back. I felt weak, sick, half dead. My body was alien to me now. I wasn't me anymore. But all of that paled in comparison to the wash of joy at the impending reunion. I needed to get to Ten Pony Tower, get cleansed of the taint I had suffered, assess what was left of me, and if Homage would still have me, spend it forever with her and my friends. A short forever, unfortunately. I'd cleared the way for Red Eye to ascend, and he had a host of unicorns he planned to sacrifice in the process. With the threats of the goddess in the Black Book taken care of, I now had a new quest before me. To brave the Everfree Forest and rescue those unicorns from Red Eye's cathedral. I probably didn't have a lot of time now. Now that Red Eye couldn't count on alicorns for protection anymore, he would likely act fast. But I was in no shape to fight a Radroach, much less infiltrate a stronghold. My body was weeping for me to give it rest and care. I couldn't push it further until I had done so. Hey, it's Lil Pip! Calamity shouted ecstatically. Hey, every pony! Ditzy-Do's back with Lil Pip! She's alive! Velvet Remedy and Zenith began to stomp in applause. Velvet gave out a thankful shout. Steelhorse whinnied. Thank Applejack! He turned to the others. Okay, let's get out of here. I don't like being in one place too long, especially this close to... The ground erupted. Fountains of dirt burst into the air as half a dozen hellhounds tore themselves out of the ground. Ditzy-Do pulled up as one of them swung her magical energy rifle around and fired at us. Velvet Remedy let out a scream. Calamity spun in the air, kicking the lever of his battle saddle, switching ammo. One of the hellhounds closed on Zenith, taking a swipe. The zebra ducked, turning and bucking the hellhound in the chest, dropping her. Steelhorse began to fire, his grenade machine gun tearing apart one of the hellhounds as she aimed a multi-gem magical shotgun towards Velvet and Zenith. Get to the wagon! Calamity shouted as he took a shot, staggering a hellhound who was trying to climb onto the Sky Bandit. The earth beneath Steelhoof's blasted upwards as a hellhound lashed out of the ground. The hellhound's claws slashed in a long arc, slicing through Steelhoof's armor. Steelhorse's armored body fell to the ground with a heavy thud. His armored head rolled a few yards away. The world stopped. The battle still raged, but it was someplace far away. All the colour and sound seemed to mute, leaving just me, the beating of my heart, and the slow rocking of Steelhorse's head. Steelhorse was dead. A cold, wet chill ran down my body. There was no coming back from that. I'd seen Zenith decapitate a Canterlot zebra, but the little pony in my head was shaky in denial. No, no, she insisted. There'll be an ugly warping sound, and he'll be right back with us, just like always. Steelhorse was dead. I couldn't move, couldn't feel, couldn't breathe. My mind was locked up. The gears jammed. The Hellhounds weren't going to give me a moment to process, much less to grieve. The Hellhound who killed Steelhorse stepped forward, skewered his claws through Steelhorse's helmet, then spun and hurled the armored head of my companion, trying to knock us out of the sky. Ditzy dodged, and Steelhorse's head slammed against her wagon next to me, splintering the wood. The impact cracked his helmet's headlamp. Suddenly snapped inside of me. My horn burst with light, layer upon layer of overglow, brighter than even Ditzy. The Hellhounds were surrounded with light, and they shot upwards into the sky. All of them, higher and higher, until they were nothing but dark specks. Then, they weren't visible at all.
Steelhooves!
Velvet screamed, dashing to the fallen, headless body and wrapping it in her forelegs. All the others turned, eyes wide as they realised we had lost one of our own. Thud! The ground shook as the first Hellhound fell out of the sky. The mangled, broken body oozed. Thud! Thud, thud, thud! 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 Do you even know what balefire is? Another flash of memory tugged at me as we approached New Appaloosa. We were flying low, moving quickly. Then I stood on the Sky Bandit, watching the clouds. I got the impression we should be walking, but my condition was too severe for me to continue my journey. Ain't safe to fly no more, Calamity called out to me, flying as close as he could to absolutely everything without suffering Ditzy exposure. Damn Enclave of patrols everywhere, and anything airborne tends to catch their attention. Not that the Sky Bandit has exactly a low profile, considering that cloud breach last month. We just couldn't catch a break. You sure it was Harbinger that you saw a mare pony? Calamity asked as we began to slow down. That's who she said she was, I called back, hating how much effort it took to shout. Damn, I figured his head to be big when the whole regiment of the Enclave descended on Maripony. Zenith and I barely made it out of there, but we blew up a member of the Enclave High Council? I could use one of your creative swools by now, little pip. Calamity frowned. Congratulations, we just declared war on the Enclave. Ouch. But even as I grimaced, I realised that the Enclave had shown up knowing that Red Eye was plotting against the goddess. If anything, they would suspect he'd been behind the bomb, and I'd been his agent. Which, on a very real level, was absolutely accurate. From the Enclave's perspective, Red Eye had just declared war. I could see Pyrelight circling above the city, a single bird of prey. She let out a hoot as the two wagons landed, Ditzy sitting down a little distance from the sky wagon. Pyrelight dove out of the air, disappearing into the town. Maybe she got out, I offered weakly. Not much of a chance of that, Calamity called back. Mum, the alicorns were clear. A huge alicorn shield wrapped around all the Maripony. I reckon she was trying to trap you inside with her. No pony got out. Or she was trying to contain the blast, protect her fleeing children. With a shield that powerful, generated by the goddess herself, the only thing that would get out through it was her telepathy, until the second the bomb killed her. That was, assuming she didn't realise that the bomb was within her shield. In truth, the balefire bomb was planted far enough beneath the facility that it very well could have been outside her shield. And if she suspected that, maybe she was trying to save herself. Either way, it didn't matter. The Megaspell augmented balefire bomb had proven greater than the goddess's power. It's magical fire, I had offered, answering Ambrosia even as I realised I didn't know what balefire was, other than green and radioactive.
It's bottled necromancy enhanced dragon's breath,
Ambrosia had told me.
The magical disintegrative type of dragon's breath that can send you someplace else. In the case of balefire, probably straight to hell.
Based on the possession of the super alicorn, who had probably been a normal alicorn until Twilight Sparkle flew around New Crater in Splendid Valley, searching for survivors. Ambrosia's guess was almost certainly wrong, but the concept was still chilling. Something Rarity had said struck me.
I even tried to have Spike burn it. All that did was send it to Princess Celestia.
I remember thinking of Spike, Rosie, and Enclave pony inside her armour. It was horrid and sickening to witness. But I felt a little better about it if I could imagine he was sending her soul straight to Celestia. Which led to the hurting reality of the body being carried inside the Sky Bandit. Should we have Steelhorse cremated? Would Spike be willing? "We can't stay here," Calamity said, the normal cheer gone from his voice. He looked at Ditsy-Do. "None of us." Ditsy-Do nodded sadly. She dropped one of her chalkboards and wrote on it, "Is this permanent?" "Nah, I reckon it should bleed off, just like when Pyrelight soaked up in the Philadelphia crater," Calamity assured her.
But Pyrelight took days to return to normal.
Velvet Romney reminded them. Her eyes were still wet and puffy with tears. She'd been riding with Steelhorse's body and head, keeping watch over him.
And Ditsy-Do has taken far more radiation than Pyrelight did. It could be weeks.
The sweet ghoul-mare looked panicked. She quickly erased her chalkboard and wrote, "Silverbell," in large letters. Velvet Romney nodded, smiling sadly.
I'll stay here and watch over her.
"You can't," I said, speaking up finally. "We're not allowed inside the town." Zenith looked up in surprise. "We are not?" she asked, her exotic voice betraying her own depression. "When did we offend this town?" "Before your time," Calamity said. "Back when it was just Lil Pip, Velvet and me."
"Well, then I am not bad, it would seem,"
Zenith asserted, turning to Ditsy-Do. She too smiled gently.
"It would be a pleasure to watch Silverbell for you, while you have to be away."
Ditsy-Do forgot herself, swooping up to the zebra and giving Zenith a tight, albeit squishy, hug. Zenith stiffened but bit back any response. The ghoul Pegasus swiftly backed away, writing, "Sorry," on her chalkboard. "Hey, look, Ditsy," Calamity offered. "I might know where y'all could get some help. There's a mayor up in Friendship City who's been researching radiation and its effects on creatures. If any pony can help you shed this off quicker, it'll be her." Ditsy smiled brightly, one of her eyes rolling upwards as she visibly fought her urge to hug Calamity now. "Why don't you travel with us for a spell?" Calamity offered. "Ain't safe to travel alone, and we're headed that way, ain't we, little Pip?" 10 Pony Tower, I nodded, realising we couldn't cremate Steelhorse's body. He wasn't ours. Fetlock first. We have to take Steelhorse back to Stable 29. The massive gate to New Appaloosa rumbled open. The Griffin bodyguard, whom I had seen with Ditsy-Do before, flew out, Silverbell scampering after him. Her eyes went wide as she saw Ditsy-Do.
"Mummy, you look like Pyrelight!"
The little lavender filly began to charge across the road between us, trying to reach her. Zenith quickly caught her, holding her back.
"Mummy!"
I heard a strangled sound. I wasn't sure if it was from Velvet or Ditsy-Do. The glowing Pegasus rubbed her hoof across her chalkboard, erasing Silverbell's name, and wrote something else before picking the chalkboard up again. Silverbell struggled against the resisting legs of Zenith and began to cry. Ditsy-Do trotted halfway to where Zenith was holding Silverbell, as close as she dared to get, and set the chalkboard down on the street. "Stay away, love. Mummy's poison." The clouds had begun to darken, threatening the equestrian wasteland with another storm. Dark shadows moved just behind the surface of the clouds. As we watched, the shadows took the shape of great black warships, descending beneath the cloud curtain. Each warship was a huge deployment hangar, and platforms were massive magical energy cannons, flanked by the blackest thunderclouds, and moving through the air were a dozen propellers. Through my binoculars, I could barely make out the swarm of black dots that were armoured Pegasi, flying in formations between the warships. "Raptors," Calamity announced grimly, watching as the warships descended lower, altering course slightly. "Dragon killers." I allowed my magic to expire, dropping my binoculars on the ground next to me. I was at a loss for an appropriate colourful metaphor. Anything involving Luna's horn now struck me as grievously inappropriate. My gaze found Ditsy Do, the brightest point of light. She was enwrapped in a lead-lined cloak, something she had the Griffin fetch from her shop. An old mailbag hung from her side, but her hooves, face, and wings still burned like an emerald furnace. I recalled something Hamaja said as DJ Pony, claiming a male pony had delivered a letter from Ditsy Do. Beneath the anti-radiation barding Ditsy Do had provided me, and my own barding beneath, my own coat was growing back over my hind leg. My new hind leg. Just thinking about that felt deeply wrong. I'd been drinking enough Radaway to purge most of the radiation from my system, even travelling in the back of the absolutely everything delivery wagon. But I still felt weak and twisted up inside. We were just a hill back from Trixie's cottage. In theory, we had stopped for lunch, but no pony was eating. I couldn't stomach anything. Ditsy Do didn't have to eat, and neither Velvet nor Calamity had any appetite. They both just stared at their cans of beans until Ditsy Do trotted up, dropping a chalkboard which said, "Your poor beans are getting all lonely. They want to be with their stomach friends." Calamity had chuckled and nibbled a little bit after that. Velvet Remedy had just given a sad smile. I drank another Radaway. "They've been coming down out of the skylight there for just the last 2 days," Calamity informed me. "Ponies are freaking out, going into hiding. Whole damn wasteland feels like it's under martial law." He looked askance at me. "They took over the broadcast this morning, both Red Eye and DJ Pony. Radio's now all Enclave. All the time." I put in my earbloom and turned on my Pitbuck's radio, trying to ignore the squirming feeling in my insides. Instead of Hamaja's music or DJ Pony's voice, I caught the end of the Pegasus anthem. "Greetings, ponies of Equestria. By now, you have seen our ships in the sky overhead. Perhaps our Pegasi have even landed in your streets. But there is no need for alarm. Our scouts are merely assessing the current situation before we determine how best we can help you." I switched it off. I'd heard better propaganda from Red Eye. "I'm trying not to doubt myself here," Calamity admitted. "I left because I realised the Enclave never intended to rejoin the rest of Equestria. The Enclave wasn't interested in helping down here. Now I'm second guessing a lot of things." "They tried to make a deal with the goddess," I told him. "They aren't here to help." "Yeah," Calamity said dourly. "I didn't really figure they were. This is just a backup plan." Calamity started packing up the camouflage netting again. "When did you get that?" I asked. "Steel hooves," Calamity sighed. "When the Enclave first appeared, he procured this from Crossroads. She said we needed to keep the Skybander covered when we weren't moving." I swallowed. I started to think of all the times Steelhorse had protected us, but ended up just thinking about his voice. That deep, masculine rumble. Like Flutterguy's voice, Watcher had claimed. And now, I'd never hear it from him again. My burning eyes wanted to cry. "He was real good at that," Calamity said solemnly. "Thinking tactically." We shared a moment of silence. Minutes later, we were flying again. We'd been trying to keep low, but the terrain was about to make that difficult. Calamity winged us upwards, gaining altitude as we passed over the ruins of Trixie's cottage. There were several alicorns standing around it. They didn't pay us more than a fleeting glance. If anything, I would have said they looked lost.
Tomorrow,
Crossroads told us. I blinked with surprise. We're in the security centre of Stable 29. A sombre air hung over the entire stable. Steelhorse's body had been taken into the Crusader mainframe room by an honour guard. "Tomorrow?" I asked, swaying slightly. My body felt so weak, my hooves wanted a rest. My mind was fogged, but I was fairly sure that the new acting elder's announcement was abnormal. "Isn't that awfully fast?" Star Paladin Crossroads neighed.
Every Steel Ranger outcast who would be able to make it here is already here.
Applejack's Rangers! Calamity spoke up. A Crossroads' querying look, Calamity explained. I know that ain't an official name, but that's how Steelhorse thought of y'all. Looking down at his hooves, he added, should honor it, so I'm saying. The brown mare with the cropped yellow mane nodded.
As I said, all the Applejack's Rangers who would be able to attend the Elder's funeral are already here. There's no delay. It would be unseemly to allow his body to go unburied.
I imagine there were internal matters to address as well. Steelhorse had been the leader and symbol that all these Rangers had rallied around. With him gone, Crossroads had to act quickly to keep the Rangers from falling apart. Every pony seemed to expect Crossroads to step into the role of Elder. Many already acted as if she was, but I sensed it was an official protocol to be attended, and Crossroads was not willing to take those steps while Steelhorse remained unburied. Her love and respect of him were too much to allow that.
Will you be able to attend?
My manacles couldn't drag us away, Calamity said. I quickly offered a prayer to Luna that Calamity's words didn't beg prophecy. I nodded. I couldn't travel anymore tonight even if I wanted to. I smiled grimly. I was having trouble standing. We'll stay the night, so long as it's alright with you, and you have a place Ditsy Doo can stay safely. Crossroads smiled grimly.
Your glowing friend? We can put her in one of the shielded rooms in maintenance.
She explained.
I'm not going to turn away some pony just because she's a ghoul, especially not on the eve of Steelhorse's funeral. But I can't have her trotting about the stable either. She's dangerous to those around her.
I nodded. I knew Ditsy Doo would understand. Where? Nope, that was it. My legs decided that they were done with the standing thing and wanted to try something else. How about falling over? Yep, that sounded good. Thump. Lil Pip! Calamity reared, his voice full of worry. I'm fine, I told him quickly. Floor's nice. I think I'll just stay down here for a little while. Crossroads stepped forward.
What's wrong with her?
Lil Pip was in Splendid Valley when the mega spell went off, Calamity told her worriedly. She keeps breaking all the rules and surviving the impossible, and I think reality is kicking her in the tail for it.
I'll have our medics,
Crossroads was saying. I'm getting velvet, Calamity swore, turning and flying out of the room. I sighed. All this fuss. I just needed a bit of rest. Just a little nap. Dark grey clouds hung over the equestrian wasteland the next morning. A cold wind blew across the grass, bringing the scent of impending rain. Soft rumbles of thunder growled in the depths of the cloud curtain. Somewhere in the distance, the cracking booms of some sort of gunfire echoed across the landscape. We were gathered on the greens of the rolling hills, near Steelhorse's shack. The wind rippled the dark water of the lake. Behind us, Ditsy Doo stood near the edge of a single large tree on the hilltop. She had draped a large black sheet over her lead cloak, her glowing face and hooves shining out from under it. The ghoul Pegasus had somehow known to bring several such sheets. I sat in a wheelchair, just up the hill from the rows of armour-clad rangers that flanked both sides of the procession. I'd been up for a little over an hour. I'd passed out on the floor of the security centre and slept all night in the stable clinic. The rest had done me a world of good, but I still felt terrible, an alien in my own body. Velvet Remedy had washed me, hardly speaking a word the entire time. Then, insisted I attend the funeral off my hooves. Calamity had created black dresses for both Velvet Remedy and myself out of the additional sheets provided by Ditsy Doo, again, demonstrating his freaky knowledge of sewing. The cloth matched the colour of my heart. I was drowning in sorrow, but I still hadn't managed to cry. I felt like I was broken. The rangers on each side of the aisle stopped slowly in unison, a processional beat. 6 rangers in ceremonial barding walked slowly down the cleared aisle, their mouths holding the rods that held up the platform upon which Steelhorse's body rested. I noticed that Strawberry Lemonade was one of the pallbearers. Tears were spilling from her eyes as she kept step with the larger stallions, walking Steelhooves to the hole in the ground that would be his final resting place. Some pony had welded Steelhooves' head back on. Somehow, that was what got me the most. My breath caught, then came out the shudders. My whole body began to tremble, racked with sobs. Velvet Remedy reached up a hoof and held me gently. She'd been crying softly since we left stable 29, and most of the trip here yesterday. Now, she comforted me while the dam inside me broke. My eyes burned fiercely. I still had no tears. But my whole body did what my eyes could not. Star Palette and Crossroads stepped forward as the pallbearers reached the pit. She began to say the words she'd written the night before. Words spoken on Steelhooves' behalf.
Applejack's Rangers,
Crossroads began.
That's what Elder Steelhooves called us.
My mind drifted as Crossroads spoke. I went back to when Steelhooves first began travelling with us. So, why are you still with us? I'd asked Steelhooves. Maybe I have nothing better to do.
Lived through more than any of us could ever imagine,
Crossroads was saying.
He survived more than we could fathom, and through centuries, his heart never strayed from his love and commitment to one single mare.
I doubted him. He'd kept his motivations, like his feelings, close to his chest. I remembered with pain that there was a time I considered bucking him to the curb. I follow you because you're a better pony than I am, and you remind me of some pony else. You honestly strive to help and protect other ponies. I believe she would have approved of you. He'd said that when I'd called him into question. I haven't been faithful to my oath for a long time, but at your side, I can be again.
Nothing more appropriate than to repeat the words he spoke to us all.
Crossroads reminded the Steel Rangers gathered before her.
In the words of Steelhooves, I call on you to stop and consider your oath. Consider where you are and what you're doing. Do your loyalties lie with Applejack, the mayor of the Ministry of Wartime Technology, the creator of the Steel Ranger armor, and the mare who by her own hooves, the sweat of her brow, and the honesty of her heart, forged the Steel Rangers? Another memory galloped on the hooves of the last. Steelhooves and I staring out over the harbour, looking towards Friendship City. I need to thank you, little Pip. For what? I'd asked. For failing. Steelhooves had answered, surprising me. All this time, you had been some pony to look up to. You made me want to be a better pony. But at the same time, you were too good. You were an impossible standard. Tonight, you've made it easier for me to live with myself. I curled up against Velvet Remedy, burying my face in her dress. Applejack was put in charge of the Ministry of Wartime Technology because she was the bearer of one of the elements of harmony, and the ruler of Equestria recognised the calibre of that. Do you think it was the virtue in her soul or the jewellery on her neck that made Applejack a bearer? The mayor, who was soon to replace Steelhooves, continued to speak his words with reverence they deserved. Today, you must choose with whom your oath lies.
Another memory surfaced, filling me with fresh pain for my friend and for all he had lost. It's better my child never knew me. Steelhooves had been a haunted pony. The shadows of his past, his sins and mistakes, pressed down on him. I'm sorry, little Pip. I did everything I could to make them believe taking Stable 2 was a mistake. I have been for decades. But after you showed up, and they realised there was still a functional stable down there, I'd been so angry at him, even though he had tried his best. Part of me wanted to kill him on the spot. He didn't resist or fight back. Instead, he had stepped up, become the better pony he had wanted to be.
Thank you, Steelhooves, Zenith had said, for helping my daughter's village. I know it must be hard for an old soldier to help zebra kin.
Applejack would have wanted her rangers to protect all good people, not just ponies. He had struggled with his own prejudice and was finally beginning to overcome that too. He had taken steps on a path to recovery that he would now never be able to complete. I tried to remember the last thing I had heard him say. A warning, urging us to move. But the words themselves slipped from my memory. Instead, the actual words I clearly remembered my friend speaking were, "The rest of you can go ahead if you wish, but Applejack would not want her rangers to ignore a cry for help."
Carry on his name, and in his memory,
Crossroads said, concluding her eulogy. There was a pregnant silence, broken only by the wind and the sounds of strange gunfire that continued in the distance, unabated.
Is there any pony else who wishes to speak?
Crossroad offered, the sadness soaking her voice.
Before we lower Steelhooves into his final resting place.
I pulled myself from Velvet Remedy and focused my magic, rolling forward. She walked beside me as we made our way to the front. I turned towards the expectant heads of the rangers. I opened my muzzle, but my voice caught in my throat. Another sob shuddered through me. I stared down. Again, Velvet pushed a steadying hoof on my shoulder. I swallowed heavily. I only knew Applesnack for a short time, but I may have known him better than any pony. He shared things with me. Memories. I stopped. I couldn't continue. Instead, I lifted my pit-buck-infused leg. Velvet Remedy's horn began to glow. There's nothing I can say to do him justice. But as Applesnack is lowered, I want to play this song. It's an Applejack song. I started the music. Velvet's magic amplified it beautifully, allowing it to carry across the grassy hills, wafting over the pits of sand, and out across the lake like a breeze. I wanna calm the storm, but the war is in your eyes. How can I shield you from the horror and the lies? When all the once held meaning is shattered, ruined, bleeding, and the whispers in the darkness tell me we won't survive. As the song played, the knight stepped forward, setting down the platform where Steelhorse's body rested, encased still in his Steel Ranger armour, adorned with red trim and Applejack's cutie mark painted on his flank. The platform rested over the pit, the poles resting on the edges of freshly dug earth. All things will end in time, this storm won't linger long. Why should we live as if there's nothing wrong? So hold me 'neath the thunderclouds, my heart held in your hoof. Our love will keep the monsters from our door. The song was only married by the rumble of distant thunder and the persistent sound of weapon fire. Strawberry Lemonade stepped away, her tear-reddened eyes meeting mine. Then she turned away, looking into the distance. I heard the sharp intake of air as Strawberry Lemonade gasped. I lifted my gaze in the direction she was staring. Far, far away, I could see the mountain range that ran through Equestria. The silhouette of Canterlot jutting from the tallest cliffside, wrapped in a haze of pink that had been slowly bleeding away over the last few days. Dark forms hovered around the city, sparking flashes of coloured light. For I know tomorrow will be a better day. Yes, I believe tomorrow can be a better day. A few other rangers were turning to look, although most kept their focus reverently on Steelhooves. Against a bit of judgment of my aching heart, I floated out my binoculars and turned them towards Canterlot. Enclave raptors, several of them, were firing on the Canterlot ruins. No, I realised as a spike of disbelief and dread launched through me. They were firing under the city. Oh, goddesses! They couldn't! But even as I thought the words, the reinforced supports beneath the royal city gave way. The city above shifted, white towers cracking and breaking apart as the whole of Canterlot crashed down the mountainside. The rumble echoed all over the Equestrian wasteland, almost indistinguishable from the rest of the distant thunder. A black pit swallowed my heart. "We'll come back for her," I had promised. "Until then, she's safe here." My last promise to Steelhooves. And now, I'll never be able to keep it. The Enclave had destroyed the Canterlot ruins, casually killing every pony in Stable City. The wind cut into my mane as I stood before the grave mark that one of the ranger ponies had already created. It was beautiful, stately marker fashioned from a large chunk of polished rose granite that had been scavenged from the Fetlock Chamber of Commerce. Red and grey, Steelhooves' colours. Here rests Elder Steelhooves Applesnack, forefather of Applejack's Rangers. Steadfast, enduring, unwavering, and a true friend. Calamity stood beside me, Velvet Remedy just behind. Zenith should be here, I noted mournfully. Yep, Calamity agreed.
She's here in spirit,
Velvet Remedy reminded us. I looked down at the base of the gravestone and the special holder that had been fashioned there. She ain't the only one, Calamity said, following my gaze. In that special niche rested the orange statuette with the blonde mane and tail, which I had told Crossroads that she would find in Steelhooves' shack. The words, "Be strong," were barely visible where the base was set into the granite. His little pony would watch over him forever. The spirit of Applejack would never leave his side. I rolled slowly down the hall of Stable 29, my thoughts filled with shadows and regrets and pain. I'd failed Steelhooves. He was dead, and I had failed him. He'd only asked the one thing of me. He'd asked me to save just one pony. But I'd left Star Sparkle in Canterlot, and now she was dead. I wondered if the Enclave even knew they had wiped out a village of ponies, if they had bothered to check before they started their attack, if they even cared. I reached the end of the hall and looked up at a lit banner above the door. Vinyl scratch. I lifted a hoof and clopped it against the door. Velvet? A voice drifted out from inside.
I want to be alone.
Velvet, please. I knew she was taking the loss of Steelhooves hard, but I'd begun to really worry when Calamity told me she'd locked herself in Vinyl Scratch's room. It's time for us to go.
I want to be alone,
she shouted from behind the door, making me flinch. Velvet? Something was wrong, even more wrong than I knew. Please, talk to me. I heard the door unlock. The metal slid away with a pneumatic hiss. Velvet Remedy was standing there, looking wrecked, a cross expression on her face. Her horn was glowing.
You don't want to talk to me right now, little Pip. Now go!
I focused, beginning to roll inside. She telekinetically threw something at me, hitting me in the chest. I looked down at the object which had bounced off of me and fallen into my lap. It was a box of memory orbs. Steelhooves' memory orbs.
You knew!
Velvet Remedy said firmly, but surprisingly without accusation.
Calamity told me that much, but I didn't realise Steelhooves knew too. You all did.
Oh, goddesses. She looked at his memories. She'd seen him dying on the battlefield the day that Fluttershy first tested the mega spells. Velvet, I begun, only to find there was nothing I could possibly say other than, I'm sorry.
Just go!
I choked. I was trying. I should have
told me?
She questioned, a pained smirk crossing her muzzle.
I know why you didn't. You're trying to spare me the truth. Trying to save me. And others, I suspect. That's what you do, isn't it?
There was something in her voice I deeply disliked. I'd been fearing this day for weeks, sure that the truth about Fluttershy's role in the end of things would devastate Velvet Remedy. But I was expecting rage. Screaming. Not this. Fluttershy, she made a mistake. I offered, wanting to tell Velvet that the Megaspell bombs weren't really Fluttershy's fault. That all the death and destruction shouldn't be laid at her idol's hooves. But it was okay to still love Fluttershy.
Fluttershy created something beautiful!
Velvet Remedy interjected sternly, broking no room for argument.
The only mistake she made was that she gave it to any pony.
Well, I should be relieved to hear her saying that, right? So why wasn't I?
Now, if you'll excuse me, I want to be alone.
She said gravely.
I don't think I can travel with you anymore.
What? I breathed, my wounded heart breaking. I couldn't lose another friend. Not now. Why? Velvet Remedy huffed, becoming truly cross.
You really want to leave, little Pip, before I say something we'll both regret?
She began to walk away, trying to close the door behind her. It refused to shut, sensing that I was in the way. But Velvet Remedy spun, stomping.
Fluttershy's mistake was giving the Megaspell to other ponies. She created magics of life and healing. How could I not love her for that?
She glared.
But it was beyond naive to think she could give Megaspells to anyone without them being turned into something horrible.
I fought to respond, but my brain wasn't working. I felt paralysed as I watched one of my dearest friends seem to self-destruct.
Oh, I understand why she thought other ponies could use the spells for good. I've been just as stupid. I spent my life wanting to help ponies because I've held this idiotic, naive belief that deep inside we are inherently good, that we deserve to be helped, to be saved.
Her words were giving me unpleasant flashbacks to Mr. Topaz. We were basically good. Velvet Remedy laughed a broken, nasty laugh.
Haven't you been paying attention, little Pip?
She scolded.
Did you somehow miss Abu? How about Fluttershy's cottage? Or every other damn thing we've seen?
She shook her head.
Deep inside, we're all raiders.
My muzzle hung open. No, it's not true! I knew Velvet Remedy was hurting. I prayed this was her pain speaking. I couldn't bear seeing her like this.
No,
she countered.
Even the best of us fall to evil at the drop of a hat. Do you know what the worst thing I've ever done in my life was?
I suspected she was about to bring up killing the raiders in Fluttershy's home, but she surprised me.
It was when I tried to use you to make Calamity jealous. I knew you loved me, and I...
She lowered her head.
It was horrible. What I tried to do was cruel and unkind. I didn't deserve forgiveness.
I wanted to reach out and hug her, to hold her. But I forgave you, I told her softly. We all have moments of...
Evil?
She interrupted.
That's the point, little Pip. Hell, you're possibly the most selfless, noble pony in the wasteland. And look what you've done. We're here attending Steelhorse's funeral because you decided to set off a Megaspell in their den.
I reeled, as if she had bucked me.
Honestly, I know you think of them as monsters, and I even know why you had to do it. The goddess was a threat to everyone and everything. But you blew up their home to get at her, little Pip.
Oh, goddesses.
You massacred all those monsters' families, their little monster children.
Her tone was sad and without malice, but each word slammed into me with the force of a sledgehammer.
Honestly, what did you expect them to do? Roll over? Play dead?
She looked me directly in the eyes.
Steelhorse is dead because of what you did.
My whole body went numb.
And the worst part is that it was the right thing to do.
All of this, Steelhorse's death, it was all my fault.
And you're the best of us.
She reached up and pushed me out of the doorway with a hoof.
I'm not coming with you, little Pip. I can't help save the wasteland if I can't believe the ponies in it are worth saving.
The metal door slid shut between us. I fell out of my wheelchair and curled up on the floor, hurt beyond the telling of it. Finally, the tears came, and they wouldn't stop. Calamity came looking for me. I didn't want to move. I wanted to just die. I did this. I moaned, unable to cry anymore. Now, you stop that right now, you hear? Calamity ordered. You risked your own life, and nearly lost us even in the Equestrian wasteland from one of the biggest threats I could imagine. You're a big damn hero, little Pip, and I won't stand for none of this self-pity. That bomb killed how many? Hellhounds, Pegasi, how many unintended dead, just to take out the goddess. I imagined even Red Eye would have been appalled at how I discarded my morals. Well, I see it. You saved every pony, Calamity told me. And weren't your fault the damn Enclave showed up when they did. No pony could have predicted that. How about the Hellhounds? Calamity nickered. Ah, damn it, Velvet. He stomped. The Hellhounds are nothing but murderous, territorial monsters who kill ponies indiscriminately. They have been for centuries. Y'all saved countless lives by wiping out so many of them. He was right, but that didn't stop me from thinking of magical dragons' fire, burning away monster families filled with helpless, screaming children. Let's go get your well, little Pip. I blinked, looking up at him. You're coming with me? I was actually surprised that the Pegasus nodded. I want to stay with Velvet. Be here for her, Calamity told me, flapping his wings in discomfort. But y'all need to get to Manhattan, and it ain't safe traveling alone. A sick heroine and a ghoul merchant? He shook his head. Should be hurting something fierce, but if you don't come along, I reckon you might not make it. And I ain't aiming to lose any more friends this week. Manhattan. Homage. My heart was bleeding out. I needed her so badly, but the idea of seeing her again filled me with dread. How could she possibly want anything to do with me after all I had done? After what I had become? He leaned down and gave me a nuzzle. Especially not my first one. I felt a brush of warmth against my bleak, dying heart. Thank you. I'm sorry for pulling you away from her. From what I gather, you'll have given her more help than I could. If there's any way out of the darkness she's in right now, those little statue things are the best guide she could hope for. Sometimes, my Pegasus friend was startlingly wise. Calamity and I huddled together in the back of the delivery wagon, clad in anti-radiation barding. Our ghoul friend had smiled broadly as she produced her second suit from the back of the wagon. This one, tailored for a Pegasus stallion. I was beginning to think Ditsy-Doo really did carry absolutely everything we might need. Calamity had strapped his battle saddle on over the anti-radiation barding, foregoing his normal armor. Even with the barding, we were having to consume Radaway at least once every hour. Calamity didn't have to be in here with me, but he insisted. I was thankful and annoyed with him for it. Calamity didn't want to risk taking the Skybound into Manhattan. Crossroads had confirmed reports of a lot of Enclave operating within the city, so we would either have to go in on hoof or in Ditsy-Doo's wagon. The trip shouldn't take more than a few hours. We were going to stop at 10 Pony Tower first, drop me off. Then, Calamity was going to go with Ditsy-Doo to Friendship City. If Homage would still have me, I hoped to spend a week wrapped in her embrace. Ah, pony feathers, Calamity said, looking up from our 14th game. Best of 39? I was beginning to suspect he was letting me win. Really, no pony could be this bad at tic-tac-toe. I felt the wagon slow. Ah, hell, Calamity spat as two Enclave Pegasi shot past the wagon and yawed, circling back towards us. Hold, Pegasus! One of them called out, her armor magnifying her voice and altering it with an intimidating reverb. Identify! Great leaders! What the hell is that thing? Not good. Just... They're shooting at us? I gasped. The two Enclave Pegasi had opened fire on Ditzy-Doo. The wagon went into an abrupt dive. Calamity and I tumbled against the wall of the wagon, along with several crates. One, containing dozens of packets of Rataway, spilled open, scattering glowing orange packets. Several fell through the window that looked out the front of the wagon. I'd pull myself to the window and peeked out as the wagon began to pull up, twisting as Ditzy-Doo made a hard turn, weaving through the piers of the lunar line. Smoke curled off of the hole in her lead barding just behind her left wing, glowing ichor seeping from her wounded flesh. Chizch! Chizch! Above me, part of the roof glowed, a hole the size of a foal disintegrating away. I floated out Little Macintosh, pushing myself onto a toppled crate until I could see one of the attacking Pegasi through the opening. I slid into Sats. Calamity launched himself out of the back of the wagon, taking wing as I fired several shots into the black carapace of the Enclave soldier. Two of the bullets glanced off the armor, but the third penetrated. I ducked back down, needing to reload with either armor-piercing or magical bullets. The wagon shifted again, all of the crates sliding towards the open rear gate as Ditzy-Doo tried to gain altitude. I cast out a levitation net, trying to keep Ditzy-Doo from losing all the wares she was carrying. A bolt of magical energy flew into the wagon, striking one of the metal boxes and melting it, destroying what had ever been inside. I could hear Calamity's battle saddle firing. Dead shot, Calamity. I was sure he hit his mark. One of the Enclave Pegasi was swooping right in front of us. The gems in her battle saddle cracked, glowing brighter as the Pegasus switched to more powerful charged sparkle packs. I lifted Little Macintosh, my targeting spell allowing me to lock onto the Pegasi's head. I hadn't had time to swap bullets, but if I could hit the visor, I was sure my shot would go through it. I was thrown back violently as Ditzy-Doo suddenly came to a complete stop. The chasing Pegasi turned to pull up, but slammed jarringly into the back of the wagon's roof. We started moving again, as the black carapace-clad Pegasi dropped to the ground, unconscious. I was cleaning up the crates, levitating him into order when Calamity flew back in. "Sorry, little Pip, but I couldn't bring myself to kill the fellow," he said, his muzzle etched in a grimace. "I grounded him with a wing shot, but we're likely to have more trouble from them lot." He looked away. "I used to be one of those soldiers." I understood. "Do you want to talk about it?" Calamity shook his head. "Not right now. Let's get you better first," he said, looking for time. "But yeah, I reckon I'm gonna have to talk about this sooner or later." "Oh, it just keeps getting better," I groaned as we spotted the Enclave array on the top of Ten Pony Tower. Ditzy-Doo veered away, looking for a safe place to land, some place out of sight. We would have to approach Ten Pony Tower on hoof, or, more precisely, I would. The Enclave presence in Ten Pony meant that there was no place for either of my Pegasi friends. A memory resurfaced. "Open it back up!" Ambrosia had yelled, ordering me as the antennae-like weapons of her battle saddle had glowed threateningly. "Open up this room right now, or I swear by the High Council, I'll teach you what it's like to melt!" I can't. I tried to reason with her. "I'm as trapped as you are. This room can only be opened from the outside." And, based on the videos I'd seen on my first trip to Maripony, only by the goddess. That was all. Just a flash. A fragment of those 30 plus minutes I was missing. Ditzy-Doo landed in the darkened mouth of a crumbling chariot wash. She unhitched herself from the wagon, digging a healing potion out of the mailbag slung at her side. "Ditzy-Doo? Calamity? Would you both wait here for me?" I asked plaintively. "Just a few hours, in case I can't get in, or something goes wrong. In case Homage kicks me out." Ditzy-Doo nodded swiftly, then dropped her chalkboard and wrote a single word. "Muffins?" I smiled. If I can get Homage to bake some, absolutely. A few minutes later, I was walking through the rubble towards Ten Pony Tower. The building seemed so much more imposing from street level. It towered upwards, the only truly intact building anywhere close to its size, rising out of the graveyard of Manhattan like a lighthouse, serving as both a beacon and a warning. My hooves trod between emptied food cans, old fires, and a dozen other reminders that part of Red Eye's army had camped around the tower, cutting it off from the rest of the Equestrian wasteland, threatening to destroy it with a balefire bomb. The same balefire bomb I talked Red Eye into sending to Splendid Valley so he could kill the goddess with it and destroy the Black Book. And kill countless others, including Steelhooves in the act of it. The thought clawed at my heart. The little pony in my head wept silently. I stopped, leaning against the giant S, one of the more intact letters which had come crashing down from the face of the building. I wasn't breathing right. I wanted to collapse again, and I couldn't tell if it was from the sorrow threatening to overwhelm me, or the weakness that was wrecking my body. They felt like one and the same. Ahead, I saw the main entrance to Ten Pony Tower had been armoured over. The whole lower floors were barricaded with a yard of magically infused rubble. The only way in, other than the roof, was through the 4-star station above me. I had known this, of course, but it didn't make the idea of levitating up to the station any less exhausting. I looked upwards and saw the black, insectoid form of an armoured Enclave soldier striding across one of the tracks above me. With a flick of my hoof, I turned on the MG Stealth Buck 2 and became invisible. What do you mean she's not here? I cried as I followed Lifebloom. Lifebloom led me through the secret parts of Ten Pony Tower, places that neither the citizens of the tower nor its new, armour-clad guests knew of. Just that, little Pip, Lifebloom affirmed. The Enclave shut down her broadcast. Apparently, they have the ability to override whatever any of the rest of us are doing with these towers.
But it will still be my project, right?
Rambodash asked.
It will still be the Ministry of Awesome?
The Enclave didn't control the central hub for the single Pegasus project, but they controlled who knew how many Ministry of Awesome hubs were above the clouds. And Rainbow Dash had assured that the Ministry of Awesome had overriding authority. I knew my homage. She wouldn't stand for being shut down. She would see the truth got out, even if it killed her. When did she leave? I asked, worried more for her now than I had when Ten Pony Tower faced Red Eye's bomb. That, at least, I'd been in a position to prevent. Yesterday morning, just a few hours after they took control of the airwaves. Lifebloom told me as we reached a chamber where he had purged the taint still trapped in my body. She took a bunch of those override devices, like the one she gave you for the Philadelphia Tower. Said she had an idea. You go, homage, I whispered, wanting to cheer for her, despite my worries and fears. Ditsy Doo's hooves touched down on the docks of Friendship Island. Hardly nice being able to approach Friendship City without being shot at, ain't it? Calamity asked me as he hopped out the back of the wagon. Yep, I said, mimicking his accent decently. He chuckled. Ditsy Doo detached from the wagon and shook herself, the lead-lined cloak fluttering. She'd been disappointed but understanding about the lack of muffins. Calamity had been concerned when my stay at Ten Pony Tower had proved so short-lived, but with our homage, and with the Pegasi in black carapace-like armour walking through the public areas of the ritzy building, I found myself without reason or desire to stay. Watching a couple armoured Enclave ponies looking into the window of my locked-up former cheese shop as they chatted about how they should require hero discounts was the final buck that drove me back outside. A guard pony was approaching us, her eyes shifting between the two Pegasi.
So, it's a visit from the great and benevolent Enclave, is it?
Calamity coughed, stomping a bit. Not hardly.
Really?
The guard asked, moving closer.
Then, let me see your flank.
I raised an eyebrow at that, but Calamity turned, taking the anti-radiation barding in his teeth and pulling it up over his flank, revealing the scar in the shape of a cloud and lightning bolt that had destroyed his cutie mark.
Alright then.
The guard mare said, relaxing visibly.
Welcome to Friendship City.
She gave us a pleasant smile. Her eyes scanned over the wagon and locked onto Ditzy-Doo, whining in surprise.
Ditzy? The Wasteland Survival Guide Ditzy?
Ditzy-Doo gave a happy clop at the recognition.
DJ Pony said you were a ghoul, but he never said you were a glowing one.
Ditzy-Doo set down her chalkboard and wrote on it before kicking it over to the guard. Glow is new. Too much Splendid Valley. Friendship City can fix? The guard read the chalkboard and looked uncertain but hopeful.
Well, if there is any pony who could help, it would be Great Dr. Freshwater. She's in charge of the science station built into the Friendship City Island. She created the water purifiers about a decade back, and has spent the last few years working on unlocking the mysteries of what she calls the Children of the Bombs.
Cheery, I thought aloud, suspecting that I might very well fit into that category. Lifebloom had magically purged me of taint, but I'd been exposed to a lot of it, both through direct contact with the dirty IMP lake in Maripony, and later in trace aerosol amounts in the leak in the safe room. According to Lifebloom, all of my internal organs were in the right place, and I hadn't started to change size or grow wings. But the taint had altered me on a fundamental, biological level. According to the unicorn, I was closer to being an alicorn than to being a pony. I did not consider this a good thing. The goddess claimed the alicorns were improved and superior, better suited than ponies to survive and thrive in the new world, and to be their natural successors. I just felt a stranger in my own skin. The guard gave me a look.
And anything I can help your friends with?
I thought a moment. We're here to help Ditzy-Doo, and we'll be staying as long as that takes. Can you give us a quick picture of Friendship City? The guard nodded.
You bet I can. Basic rundown is, Friendship City tries to be a good place for decent ponies to live, with as much freedom and safety as we can offer. The island makes that pretty easy. We don't get much trouble from raiders or slavers out here. Usually, just the occasional sea serpent or ratigator. We occasionally get refugees or folks looking to settle down. We do the best we can for them, although we're beginning to run out of room. Raspberry Tart wants to start building shacks around the base of the main city, but Mayor Blackseas is impeding the expansion. She doesn't want Friendship City becoming a shanty town.
I nodded, taking mental notes.
Friendship City is ran by a council of 3 August ponies. Dr. Freshwater, who I already told you heads up the science station. Mayor Blackseeds, who speaks for the general citizenry. And Chief Lantern, who is head of the guard. If you're looking for temporary housing, your best bet is the Warm Smiles Inn. You can also seek refuge in the common room for free, but I don't recommend it.
The guard scowled.
That place is run by Raspberry Tart. Mayor says she runs things crooked. Don't know about that, but I do know she takes advantage of the lack of supervision she had fostered around that place.
Ditzy-Doo bristled a neighed, stomping a hoof. At my questioning look, she trotted over and recovered her chalkboard, erasing it with her hoof and writing, Raspberry Tart does bad business. No muffins for her. The guard began to lead us around the science station entrance, which backdoored onto the docks. Despite the city's name, the entrance looked anything but friendly. Thick, armoured slabs operated by pneumatics sealed the science station with armoured shielded turrets covering the approach. There was no lock or no terminal. Just a camera. The door could only be opened by some pony inside. A little mat of forked grass and white flowers lay at the front of the door, saying welcome.
Raspberry Tart is the head of the merchants unit. Mayor Blackseed says she's building a case to get her thrown out of the city, but the others won't act unless they have proof, for fear that she'll take too many of the merchants with her.
The guard rolled her eyes.
That is, assuming she could even get out the front door.
The guard waved a hoof at the camera, smiling. I heard the turret's power down as the thick slab slid open in a deep-throated hiss.
Now, I'm afraid you'll have to turn in your weapons at the door.
The guard mare cautioned.
Friendship City is a friendly place. Friends, and we want to keep it that way. You'll get them back once you leave. I recommend you take a moment to introduce yourselves to Mayor Blackseas as soon as you get Ditzy-Doo settled in. You'll find her in Black Sea Supplies.
She then smiled to Calamity.
And I imagine you'll be wanting to pay a visit to Radar, our resident Dashite.
Calamity gaped in dumbfounded surprise. Radar still alive? He gasped. And he's here?
Yes, indeed. Ancient as dirt, but still flapping his wings. He's in charge of the science station back when Friendship City was founded. Helped turn the city into the place it is today.
I blinked, suddenly remembering a chapter from the Wasteland Survival Guide on the founding of some city somewhere. I'd only skimmed the chapter at the time I had read the book. After all, I'd been more interested in basic survival tips than grandiose concepts like settlement building. And then, I remembered Calamity's assertion that the Pegasus helped string up the rope bridges connecting the freestanding sections of Friendship Bridge. The guard grinned at Calamity's expression.
I take it you weren't really expecting to see another Dashite in your lifetime.
I giggled at my companion. Might want to pick up your jaw before you come in. Calamity was turning in his battle saddle at the guard station, just inside, when a water blue unicorn pony with a short shock of raspberry mane and a matching short tail trotted up with a sense of urgency. Dressed in her lab coat, she looked very scientific.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Friendship City Science Station. We're making a better tomorrow for all the pony kind. Please come with me.
She encouraged.
I'm Dr. Freshwater. This is my facility. Please make yourself at home, but just don't touch anything.
She shook my hoof, then spun immediately to Ditsy Doo.
Ditsy Doo, is it?
Dr. Freshwater asked, floating out a pair of glasses and trotting over to get a closer look at our glowing ghoul Pegasus. She floated out a small device that began to clickety-click, just like the radiation sensor in my pet buck. Ditsy Doo nodded, apparently at ease with the abrupt invasion of personal space.
Let's quickly get you to the radiation testing chamber, shall we? My, your output is impressive. And this is a new condition. When did you become like this? Where did you get such exposure? No, don't stop to run anything, just come along.
The doctor was already trotting away, motioning with her tail for Ditsy Doo to follow.
Let's get you all hooked up.
Ditsy Doo glanced back over her wings, giving us a look that I couldn't interpret because her eyes were doing that weird thing of hers again. Then, she fluttered off after an impatient Dr. Freshwater, who seemed eager to poke and prod at her in the name of science. She'll be alright, won't she? I asked the passing lab pony.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The pony drawled.
Once she's got the glowing one strapped in, she'll stay on the safe side of the glass.
I meant Ditsy Doo, I said crossly, as the lab pony ambled away. I'm sure she'll be fine, Calamity assured me as he flew up next to me, battle saddle free. Dr. Freshwater seemed a bit odd, sure, but if you can help Ditsy Doo get back to Silverbell any faster, I'm sure the old mare will be happy to put up with the tests. I shuddered, disliking the idea. This was why we were here, why Ditsy Doo had wanted to come, but that didn't make me feel comfortable with it. I hope they did right by her. Zebra potions, the elderly Pegasus insisted proudly when Calamity rather bluntly asked about his longevity. Radar thumped the senior hoof against his chest, wincing slightly, and exclaimed, Ain't nothing better. Them stripers have unlocked all manners of secrets with their bruins. You'll be amazed. Actually, I can believe it. I told the wrinkled, old Sienna pony, whose close-cropped mane must have been white before even the turn of the century. I chuckled, eyeing Calamity, who looked caught between an urge to dash and a desire to break into squeeze of, oh my gosh. It was a reunion he had never expected, with a pony he had never known. But the mere idea that he wasn't the only Dashite in the equestrian wasteland seemed to have overwhelmed him. That darned upstart young Freshwater may have usurped my position on the city council, even taken over my place as head researcher. But she can't force me to retire, not while there's plenty of life and mind in me. Radar insisted. I'm as fit as I ever was. To prove it, the old Pegasus stretched out his wings and flew halfway across his loft in the back of the science station. He made it a full 3 yards before having to land, wheezing frightfully. "Whoa there," Calamity said, the spell he seemed to be under breaking. He flew up to the wobbly old elderly Pegasus, trying to steady him. But Radar pushed the younger Dashite away. "I said I was fit! Don't need no help!" He looked between us. "Now, who are you folk, and what can old Radar do for you?" "I'm Calamity," my friend said warmly. "And this is my best friend, Little Pip. I'm a Dashite, down from the clouds about 7 years now. I thought I was the only one around. I mean, I heard stories of you, but you left the Enclave so long ago." "And now they're back," Radar pointed out. "Hell of a bad bit of timing." Calamity nodded morosely. Radar looked Calamity up and down. "Tell me, what do you think they're here for?" "I don't know," Calamity admitted. "But I don't think they're here to save the wasteland." The elderly Pegasus smirked. "Ah, so you don't buy the horse apples they're shoveling over the radio none neither." Calamity shook his head. "Good buck. I was beginning to think it was just me." "And you, what's your name?" Radar turned to me. "And how about you, young'un? You think they come down from the big sky to save your tail?" "Little Pip," I reminded him. "And no, I definitely don't." Radar smiled, nodding sagely. "Well, way I see it, it's got to do with the Sustainable Pegasus Project. That's the key to the Enclave's power." "How so?" I asked. "Agriculture, you silly unicorn," Radar stated. "Without them towers, the Enclave can't feed the ponies. The Pegasi wouldn't be able to survive cut off from the above cloud curtain." "Remember when you asked what we eat up here, and I joked about cloud seeding?" Calamity had told us, referring to a conversation we had a morning after the Pinky Bell farm. "I don't know what them towers were originally meant to do, but I know what the Enclave has repurposed them to do. And that's to enchant the clouds for miles around, so that we can grow crops right out of the sky." "Without that," Radar insisted, "the Enclave falls." Redeye plans to take control of the SPP. He wants to control the weather. Radar scoffed, muttering under his breath. "Good luck with that." I remembered what Calamity had said back in Spike's cave. "Only time they can act as one is when they're feeling threatened." "Then, from their perspective," Radar surmised, "it's him or them." "Lunar shuddering moonquakes," I cursed, getting a raised eyebrow from the elderly Pegasus, and whispered, "She does that a lot," from Calamity. We could have seen this coming. I looked at Calamity in sullen weariness. When we first learned that Redeye was messing with the Philadelphia Tower, we could have at least guessed the Enclave would be stepping in sooner or later. By the time we had left Canterlot, we should have known for sure. I bit my lower lip. It was only a matter of time. The moment they cottoned on to Redeye's plan. "Ain't like the Enclave has been paying the Equestrian Wasteland all that much attention," Calamity told me. "At least it never really seemed like they did to me. A few scouting parties every year." "Wait!" Radar suddenly flew up to me, his snout pressing against mine. "You said your name was Little Pip!" Yes, I stammered, taken aback. "You ever been to the Ministry of Awesome, Little Pip? Before the grand and mighty Enclave tore all the candlelight down from the mountain?" I watched the monitor as Radar keyed up the sequence. "Y'all have been in the Ministry of Awesome?" Calamity asked Radar, unable to conceal his shock. "Yeah, I was," Radar replied. "It was decades ago, not long after they burned off my cutie mark. I was hoping to find answers." He looked at us as the monitor came to life, showing first static, and then a scene of the Ministry of Awesome basement. the shield dominating the center.
I didn't get no further than the security station, and I zoomed out of there, leaving the whole damn place on high alert behind me. But I did manage to snatch up this little gem from the security logs.
I watched the monitor. The timestamp on the log was old, a few years post-apocalypse. What did you mean, good luck with that? I asked as I watched the minutes tick by on the recording.
What now?
When I said Red Eye was planning to take over the SPP, I reminded him. You said, good luck with that. Red Eye made a sound of understanding.
Well, the whole damn Enclave's been trying to enter the Central Hub for generations now. If they can't do it, I don't see how Red Eye has a chance.
He's got a plan, I said confidently.
Does he now?
Red Eye scoffed.
Well, I'd love to hear it, 'cause that place is locked up tighter than my ex-wife's anus.
Oh, goddesses. How I did not need the images that conjured.
Place is the best defenses Equestria could build. Has a super shield round it, so powerful nothing has ever been able to penetrate it. Suppose it has super guns too, but they're all inside that shield, and that shield is so over-designed that they're pretty much useless.
I know that the Enclave has built a whole base around it, Calamity added. Whole mass of troops just to guard a place no pony can get into. Radar chuckled, grinning at Calamity.
Never found any pony who could get through. Enclave High Council figures the shield's keyed only to Rainbow Dash herself, and Rainbow Dash has no surviving kin. So when she left, she pretty much screwed the powers that were out of their prize.
Bet they took that well, Calamity grinned back.
Deemed her a traitor, what they did.
Radar spat.
Sent Griffin Mugs to kill her and bring back her head. Hope some pony wearing Rainbow Dash around her neck might be able to walk through.
Calamity and I both gasped in horror. I turned from the monitor. The Enclave wanted... That's... goddesses. Radar agreed grimly, correcting me in one point.
Well, they weren't exactly the Enclave quite yet, but they were getting there real quick.
What happened? Radar stated simply.
Well, either they ain't never got her head, or they did, and it didn't work.
Pinkie Pie?
Rainbow Dash's voice floated up from the monitor. I shifted back to see the rather bedraggled Cyan Pegasus walking into the basement. The security camera zoomed in, following her.
You hear? Pinkie Pie?
She tried again, sounding so small in the vast room.
I brought them, just like you asked. What's this all about?
Her voices echoed off the walls. The light of hope in her wide eyes slowly diminished. Rainbow Dash stopped a few yards in front of the shield, the magical light painting shadows across her features as she looked around.
You weren't kidding about the health potions, by the way. I'm down to my last one, and I still need to make it out of that pink stew outside. That stuff is awful.
The room remained still and silent. The light in her eyes went out entirely, her expression becoming painfully sad.
You're not here, are you?
Rainbow Dash asked the emptiness around her.
I guess that means you didn't make it either.
Rainbow Dash stepped solemnly through the shield. She walked up to the little pedestal sitting at its center, and the memory orb box resting upon it, its lid slightly ajar. Rainbow Dash nudged it open with her nose, revealing 3 orbs and spaces for 3 more. The second, third, and fifth were still missing.
I don't know what you needed these for, or who this little pip you mentioned in your note is, but I hope it's as important as you said it is.
Rainbow Dash frowned, her voice soft and sad. She reached into her saddlebags and pulled a memory orb out with her teeth, gently setting it into the spot reserved for the butterfly orb.
Wasn't easy getting these things, especially with Gilda on my tail, but even she isn't brave enough to follow me into what's become a Cancelot, much less my own ministry.
She put the star orb into its resting place.
But she's waiting for me out there, and after that pink crap, I'm not sure if I can take her.
Rainbow Dash fished the final memory, the one to be placed in the holder with her own cutie mark. She paused, staring at the little emblem of the cloud and its rainbow lightning bolt, then sighed and put the orb into its place. Rainbow Dash shifted her attention into the fourth holder, the balloon orb.
But I trust you. You know that. You said this was important and I believe you. And I wouldn't leave my friends hanging. Even after she was...
The last words were barely a whisper.
Gone.
A single tear trailed down her cheek as she gave a weary smirk.
But one last prank, right? Together as always.
She lifted a hoof and pressed the orb box closed. The click of the lock loud in the sepulchre room. I reached out and touched the monitor screen, tears welling in my eyes. Rainbow Dash turned and started to walk away. As she reached the inside of the shield, she stopped, her face screwed up with determination.
But, you know what, Pinky? Since you're not here, I'm changing the rules.
Rainbow Dash spun around and trotted over to the mainframe on the far side of the shielded area.
If some pony comes poking around here, I want to know. I'm setting an alarm to go off in every Ministry of Awesome hub. If I'm still alive, I want to meet this little pip of yours.
Dash paused.
Sorry, Pinks,
she said, looking back over her shoulder.
I really hope you don't mind.
I watched the rest of the recording in stunned, comprehending silence.